And now it's Deborah Kobylt Live.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today on Deborah Kobylt Live. Oh, my goodness. I am so thrilled to present my guest to you today, Herb Alpert. She is partners with her dad, jazz great Herb Alpert, with Vibrato over in, right, the Glen Center, Beverly Glen up in Bel Air. It is the premier place in LA to hear jazz, live music, all kinds of music, and musicians have appeared at Vibrato. We go often, actually. I love it. Eden is also a philanthropist. She serves on 4 boards, a very, very busy lady. And she was kind enough to join us today, even though she's also planning her daughter's wedding. So thank you very much for joining us, Eden. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me on.
You know, you can tell a lot about a woman when they give another woman time, to appear on a show to talk about themselves, because you were really busy when we were talking that day. You were in the car, I think, going to a board meeting, one that is very close to your own heart. You were telling me a little bit about planning your daughter's wedding, which has changed because of the recent fires here in LA, and you've had to change venues. And I thought, gosh, and she's still giving me the time. So I want to thank you for that. And it also says a lot about you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure. I one of my words is balance. So I was trying to balance the day out, and in the car is the best place to talk sometimes.
No, it's true. I do my okay. I
Hands
do my
free,
best.
hands free.
Yeah, no, I do my best talking in the car, and I hate to say in the bathroom. That's like the best place because nobody's going to come in, and I'm just it's me and just getting ready. So anyway, a little bit about me that you didn't need to know. Anyhow, I want to take it back a little bit because you're born in LA, right? You're an LA kid.
Yeah.
And we could go way back now, or we could just start a little bit with vibrato and how that all started. But I'm going to give that one to you. Like, how would you like to start in terms of talking about how vibrato came to be? Let's start there, and then we can back it up into your early life.
Sounds good. So vibrato came to be because my father had always had this vision of creating a space that was for the artists that didn't have a fabulous space in LA, like a Blue Note, which is in New York. We really
Yes.
have those, other than Catalina Grill, to give them credit. I think I'm not really sure, further back what was in the jazz community that was out there that had good food, a good vibe, a great team of people working there. All of the elements that you need for a perfect marriage for a business.
Yeah.
And he always had this vision, and someone was in the middle of building this particular space, and things went awry. And so Pat Senator, Dad's original bass player, made a phone call to Dad, knowing that he had always wanted to have this kind of space because Pat had a place in Malibu back in the day called Pasquale's. He's Dad's original bass player, session player from Tijuana Brass back in the 60s and 70s. Called Dad and said, I have this opportunity. My father went up there, and I think he just got a feeling from it, because that's what my dad always says. It's all about a feeling that you get.
It's so true, people. Listen to that feeling. Okay, so talk to me. So he went up to that, I call it the Glen Center area, right? First of all, it's got great parking too. It's peaceful up there, and it's got a great space for music. So go ahead, continue.
An iconic shopping center that if you live here, everyone kind of knows about it. If you don't, you'll hear about it from the hotels. But my dad went in there, loved this space, took 2 years to build it out. While he was building it out, and I'm making this long story short, I started to work at the florist up there. I was in my early 30s back then. This is over 21 years ago. To get to know the community, because even though it's considered LA, Bel Air, if that's what you want to call it, because it is the Bel Air zip code. I grew up in Beverly Hills, and I stayed in my little area because I was so young growing up. I didn't really drive until I was 16. I didn't really go up to that area. So I wanted to get to know the community. So for 2 years, I worked in a flower store up there. And just so everybody understands, this is a small, high-end shopping, like a strip center with several other restaurants. And this particular restaurant was a famous restaurant called Adriano's for, I think, 20 years prior to us being there.
I remember it. Yeah.
So he built it out in his way with an acoustician, which many people don't do, but being in the music industry, he knew what he needed to do for sound.
Yeah.
So, he wanted you to be able to eat and listen to music at the same time without being blown out of the room. So he
Right.
built the place, and in 2 years we opened. It took 2 years to build it, and I got to know the community. So everyone seemed to know me when they started coming in. I started out as a host. He didn't even know, he didn't even really tell me this was happening. So I found out through word of mouth, and I told him I wanted to work there. I loved the restaurant industry. And 6 months into it, he saw me working the room like I do. And he said, "You need to be my partner. You need to be a big part of this." And I think it was right around my birthday, and we opened in January, and I'm a May baby. So I'm sorry, we opened New Year's Eve, 2024. So, I was honored to do that. And we had managing partners then, and we went through a lot of hiccups, and we have great food. We had great music. And then as time went on, I started to realize that we can't be a straight ahead jazz restaurant, and
Right.
had to change. And our managing partners needed to change. And Pasadena managing partners compared to LA, it's a very different demographic.
Different. Yeah.
Growing up in a different way. And I needed my dad, who looked at me as his child forever. You need to let me have a little more control than the managing partners. We need to bring a lot of different types of music in. We can't just be jazz. Now that's why we're called Vibrato Grill Jazz, etc., because we do it all. Not roll, but we do all genres of music, and it's not just jazz. And we like to have vocalists, and we like to give up and coming artists an opportunity to play if they have a following. So we're not karaoke. We don't just everyone wants to play there, and I want to give everyone the opportunity. We're all about, bringing new artists into the mix and giving them that chance to be known, and not just, some artist. There's so many artists. There's so many amazing artists right in our own backyard. So that's what we do. We don't fly artists in from out of the country, but if they happen to be coming through on tour and they have a great following, we love to have them. So we've had
Sorry.
Everything
Everything about Vibrato is exceptional from the minute you walk in, right? It just is. The coloring, I love it. It's very vibrant, but yet it's not the word cozy. That's the wrong word.
It's sexy. I say sexy. It's a sexy.
Thank you. It is sexy. You're absolutely right, because it's not clubby, and it's not traditional. It is sexy, but in a refined, elegant way. Without a doubt, you hit it. Thank you so much. But even the seating arrangement, right? You can sit above, on top, and have something to eat down below. And you're mixing closely with other patrons there too, which is really, really a fun experience. The acoustics are tremendous. I've gone quite often, honestly. But other than emerging artists that you have, I mean, you've had people, you've had Stevie Wonders perform there, Tony Bennett, God rest his soul, Seal, John Mayer, Tom Jones, just so many others. Did you do a lot of the booking when you started? It sounded kind of like you were doing everything. Like, how did you get it to be the vibrato it is?
I have to give my team a lot of credit. Pat Senator, who was originally the booking artist who played with my father and had his own club, he was strictly the booker, except for I have an ear for talent. I worked in publishing with my dad prior to working there, and in sync licensing, which is, film and television music placement. And also A&R, where I got to participate in the A&R meetings. And I'm pretty good at finding artists. I have a pretty good ear of that feeling, which is something that taught me. It's not something you either have it or you don't. It's not just because I like them. I can tell you right away. I heard John Mayer long before he was really known.
John Mayer, yeah.
And I said, this guy's going to be huge. And then he was huge, and it's not everyone can do that. I just heard him on a random radio station way before. I just had that feeling, kind of like when my dad found the Carpenters. You have that feeling. So I was going out and finding artists, like one of our biggest artists who's performing this Friday, that's been with me the longest, that I found through somebody suggesting that I go see her at the W on a Sunday night. Her name is Brenna Whitaker. who has since been signed with David Foster, has sung with Bocelli. She sings monthly at our restaurant, usually the last Friday of every month or the second to last Friday of every month. And I've known Brenna 15 years. She's become a dear friend. So booking it's a very hard job. It's not as easy as everyone thinks. I help with the booking. We've been through 3 bookers. So it went Pat Senator, Sean Amos, which is Famous Amos chocolate chip cookies. It was his dad, but dad's name right now. But he's like family. So Sean, who's also a musician, came in and booked for a while. But then, he had life stuff, and he needed to move on. And I had been begging my father for Hussein Jifri, who's my dad's current bass player, who's currently on the road with my father doing a Tijuana brass tour. He is our current booker, and we work very closely together. So he's got knowledge of all kinds of musicians because he's toured with Sergio Mendes and Yanni. Do you remember Yanni?
Gosh, yeah. Didn't he date Linda Evans, or isn't he still dating her? I remember. I mean, now you're getting me to go way back.
I know. Yeah. I'm getting myself to go way back. So he's toured with so many people, and he knows a genre that isn't my favorite. As much as everyone loves a big band, it's not my favorite thing. But last night was a big band. Well, it's loud, but we were sold out, and people who love a big band love a big band. They love that. And I love vocalists. I like a vocalist. Now, I do love certain music that's completely instrumental, but it's not my personal favorite genre. But I also know it's not about me. What we bring into the restaurant isn't about me. So when I see a room full of all kinds of ages last night, younger, older, and older, that I'm like, oh my goodness, how are they listening to this? It's very loud. There are nights that it's loud and they don't be affected by it. So we're a team of people that do this, but the actual booking itself now comes from Hussein Jifri, but we really bounce ideas off each other. I bring in the newer, kind of hipper things that bring in a younger crowd. Not that I'm young, but we need, you want all genres coming to a restaurant like ours. Otherwise you lock yourself into a very small demographic of people coming. And we're in a neighborhood. That's another thing. And we're child friendly. People don't realize this. They think we're a bar. We are a restaurant first. So some children have been raised coming to Vibrato. And, I want to make it a point every time I talk to anyone that children are welcome and they love it.
Yeah, they do.
It's a restaurant.
I've taken my kids since they were little. So I love it. We go all the time for my birthday. We just go random nights. Maybe we'll go Friday because I really think she's terrific and I'd love to hear her. If it's not sold out, but because you
have 2 shows, it's not quite sold out. There's an early show and a late show on Friday and Saturdays. There's always 2 shows. And some other artists, sometimes we do 2 shows, but sorry.
Yeah. I want to dial it back a little bit to Who's Eden. For people who don't know, you're adopted. But you had such a strong influence from dad and an influence from your adopted mother that wasn't really so great. Can we take it back a little bit?
Sure. I was adopted as an infant to my father, Herb, and Sharon Alpert. They were high school sweethearts, and, they were married 11 years. They had my brother 6 years prior to me, and then my mom couldn't have any more children. And I also, in my heart, believed that their marriage was starting to crumble. And my mom probably believed that bringing another child into the family would save that. We never discussed it, but I'm no dummy. And, based on how my mom was with me and the fact that they got divorced 3 years after I was born, and my stepmom came into his life the year I was born, Lonnie Hall, who's the lead singer for Sergio Mendes in Brazil 66, who my dad brought on tour in 1966. And she's an angel of love to me. She's the best stepmom I could have asked for, especially for back then. And Lonnie's been the love of my dad's life for over 55 years now. So, I grew up in a very interesting time. My dad became huge the year I was born. And then they're getting a divorce. I have a brother 6 years older than me. I have a half sister 9 years younger than me. And I'm the middle child. I'm also adopted. And my mom became a full-blown raging drug addict, alcoholic, from the divorce. And she's this little tiny petite thing. And, I told you this the other day when you and I spoke, that if you watch the movie Mommy Dearest, which I can't watch anymore, it makes me cringe because she was so in alignment with her. But I also believe it was that generation. Don't want anyone on here to feel sorry for me, because whatever happened in my past brought me to where I am now. And I am not a victim of that. I am a better person of that whole situation.
And you were very clear too. I mean, in articles about you and talking to you, you really dug in and did hard work. So for anybody out there, because it's important to me that when people hear stories and they see themselves in you, not give up, right? Like, talk to me about, how did you finally pick yourself? Look, that's hard to grow up with. Okay. Yeah. Do you know, I can't even watch that movie. The thought of her and what she did makes me, it terrifies me, actually. So the fact that you grew up with this is awful. But how did you finally pick yourself up and say, I'm going to do this work, I'm going to get better? Like, what did you do? And how did you involve Dad with all that too?
So my dad was my everything. Whenever my mom would be drinking, back then we had telephone lines and many lines, and I would pick up the phone in our house, and you couldn't see the light. I knew how to make it so you couldn't see the light, so my mom couldn't tell that I was calling him to come get me. The amazing thing about my dad, even though he's an incredible artist and extremely talented, most artists are a little narcissistic, and this is something I would say to his face, maybe a little more than a little. This is not anything he doesn't know, I feel. They come first, and some make family priority. He made me a priority during these times and would come get me and do whatever it took, get me out of the house. So I lived much of the time back and forth between my mother and my father. And they had me in therapy since I was very, very young. Group therapies, Life Spring. A lot of people won't know what these were, but it's kind of like, how could I compare it? Let's just say kind of like going to a Tony Robbins, but not even close.
For back in the day. Yeah, I kind of know what you mean.
Therapeutic events with a lot of people. And then on my own, I had wanted to become a better person. I didn't want to be like my mom. I think when I was very young, I would get drunk or something. I'd be like, I'm just like my mother. I don't want to be like her, No. And I didn't have that really addictive personality. Maybe it's because I was adopted. I also didn't have some of the I believe there's a lot of mental illness behind my mother. And by the way, no disrespect. This is an era that her generation, can you imagine why she's the way that she was? Because she was raised, I'm sure 5 times worse than I was. Her dad passed away never saying, I love you. So I just always knew, thank God, from all the help my dad and Lonnie had brought into my life, that I just wanted to be better. So I was constantly trying to probably, prove myself that it's very difficult being raised as somebody's daughter. You're forever categorized like that. I was just watching this morning on the news about Denise Richards and Charlie Sheen's kids. You're always introduced as, this is Herb Alpert's daughter. And you know what I love to say? Yeah, I'm Herb's daughter, but I'm Eden. I'm a different person. I am not him. Clearly, I'm not him. And I'm honored to be called his daughter because I'm proud of my dad and everything he's done. And I wouldn't be where I am if it weren't for him. So it doesn't bother me. Now, on a boy side, it might bother a man differently, because men take things differently,
Yeah.
So I think after the 4th relationship that I had, I fell apart from, you have automatic abandonment issues when you're adopted. You're born with them. And I learned this in a process that I did, the final process that I did, called the HoffmanInstitute.org. A lot of therapists know about this. It is a nonprofit organization. You go for a week, you do the process once. They're not trying to get your money to bring you back. To do the same process over and over again until you get it right. It's like 20 years of therapy in one. And if you go look at their website, the whole process is about getting rid of negative love patterns. And it's about learning to love yourself and have compassion for the story of why your story happened the way it did instead of anger. So I was able to do that. I went in there very depressed after like probably being dumped and not understanding it again. Why would someone tell me they love me, but it's just not right? And you get very confused by that because you're always wanting approval, especially when you have an addict parent. Then add to that adoption. So you've got all these rejection issues. Plus the fact that my mom told me my adopted mother told me she hated me once. I know it's not true, and that's drugs and alcohol, but still, you never forget that. And then you're like, why? I even asked her a few times, I'm sorry, why the F did you adopt me? And she would like look at me and question me. I'm like, let me break down what you've done to me, what you've said to me. And then after I did Hoffman, I was able to understand a lot of this a lot better and have compassion for her story. Where did she learn her behavior? And then my dad had rejected her. And even though it wasn't rejection, really, truly, if you look at it now, we grow apart. But that's hard to hear, and this is a woman who was with my dad since high school. They were the king and queen of Fairfax High School. So, that's all you know when you're that young and you define yourself. And she's with him when he becomes so famous, and then he leaves her because he's just not happy.
Wow. But you never really grew close to her, did you?
I never grew close. She made it very difficult, but I was there till the day she died. I was by her side. I was able to come. I had to put my foot down at one point and just say, and I'm not going to swear. Basically, I don't need to see you anymore. I don't need to put up with this. People actually like me. And if you don't like me, I don't need to drive all the way to La Costa to see you anymore, because she had moved down there. My mom got remarried, had just backwards, sad stuff to me. It's sad to me that she didn't get to know myself and my daughter. Even my brother and I talked when she passed, and he goes, if you think she was just mean to you, Eden, she was just as bad to me. My brother's got his own issues. He's just so sweet, but he's got issues from her as well. I don't want to go into his side of the story, but it's very sad that she left not knowing us. I honestly believe, because I did talk to a medium, that she knew, and she loved us the best way she could.
Just as you said that, I'm not kidding. I felt her presence here. I'm not kidding. And I'm not one of those people. I swear to you, I'm not one of these woo-woo. No, I felt that she was listening to us. So to your point, I think she really is. And I think, I don't know what her journey is, but she understands. Maybe she just couldn't vocalize it. I'm sorry that happened, but it also led you to go want to meet your birth mom, right, Gail?
I wanted to meet my birth mom because I was pregnant, and my parents had always made it clear that they'd be happy to help. In the long run, it's very awkward. I think people feel like, were we not good enough? And I wasn't mad at my birth mom, especially when I met her, for her reasoning for letting me go. Who knows what my life would have been like? But when I met her, she said, I just didn't want to raise you in poverty the way that I was raised, which I thought was very unselfish. And she was an adult, and at 23 when she had me, she wasn't underage. She made a decision, but it was very, it's not, some people, I don't know what they're looking for. Maybe another parent. The last thing I wanted was another parent. I had a mom, a dad, a stepmom, a stepdad, and then a birth mother, which you deal with all this stuff in Hoffman, by the way. And I was like, that's all. No, I'm not looking for another mother, and when I met Gail, that's her name, and she came into my life, I think she was trying to be a mom, and she wasn't my mom. I didn't even know her. So it was complicated. We don't talk that much. She's a lovely woman. She's super kind. She's met my daughter, but to ask, if she can call her grandma, no, these things are uncomfortable for me.
You could see where you got your compassion from, though. You said she's really kind, right? and you really look for something. You're always searching for the good in something, even if something not so great happened to you. It seems like you got that from her. And clearly, I think that's pretty wonderful. And that at least you opened up that door, and it may not be a room that you want to stay in, but at least you opened it up, because I would think it would give a person a little bit of closure, or understanding, right? Understanding the picture even more. I mean, you're definitely someone. You sure you're not a journalist? Because you're definitely someone who's always questioning, and you're looking for the answer in the right way, as opposed to being a victim. I think that's so powerful, Eden. I really, really do. And I think you bring that to your work. I really do. And like all the good stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, I think my personality, the love languages, right? I'm an affirmation person, and I don't know if it's because I didn't get it as I was growing up. Even my dad, who was very loving with us, and they're on many levels, they put me down because I'm super social, and they're all introverted. My whole family, not my whole family, my aunt Mimi, my dad's sister, my Uncle Dave, and my cousins, they're not so introverted, but my dad and my mom and my brother and my sister, my sister's an actress, but they're pretty introverted people, and I'm out there.
Yeah.
I genuinely am a social butterfly who loves people, who likes to get to know them. I'll talk to the person next to me on the plane. 90% of the time I want to talk to people. I think as I'm getting older, sometimes I'm like, I'm constantly being come at from the restaurant, because being so out there. And I think that people think if they know me, they're closer to my dad.
Yeah.
On that role as well. Everyone wants to know me. I'm constantly helping people. I'm a connector. I'm a natural connector. I'm really good at who should be connected to who. Even if it's marriages, like I introduced my daughter to her fiance. So
you did?
I have a few of those under my belt, a couple engagements, a couple marriages. Yeah. I kind of do it like this. I'm like, you should meet, and I walk away. I don't set them up on a date.
Right. But I love that about you. I mean, you're right. And going back to when you were the hostess, right? Or the greeter at Vibrato, your dad instantly saw, oh, no, we've got to put her in charge, because that's just who you are. You're a natural connector. And I think that's great. And by the way, I also love to talk to people next to me on the plane too. And sometimes I could tell they're like, oh, but I know
you have a sense of when to stop. Some people,
I will have a sense. I can tell, like, if maybe they're not into it, it's like, all right, Deborah, they're really not up for it. They don't want to answer questions. It's okay. So, but I love that about you, Eden. So, you continued to stay close to Dad, right? While you were going through all this therapy, and I imagine, therapy doesn't really end, right? But when you were really in the thick of it, was this before you started managing Vibrato?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. Oh. I had to. That's when like a shift happened. This was 2010 that this breakup happened, and then I started to kind of fade. I wasn't so present with Vibrato because I really went down a rabbit hole with this last breakup. It was really bad. And that's when I was like, I need like some kind of rehab for depression. I wasn't not wanting to be here, but I wasn't functioning. And more importantly, I wasn't functioning for my daughter. So I was desperately, I'm the person who's like, I don't want the easy way out. I want to work on this. I want to be better. I want to be happy. So my dad and I were looking at rehabs for depression. I'm like, no, I don't need a 12-step program. And two different people from two different industries, and within a year had told me about Hoffman. And the second time I read about it, I resonated, and I'm like, this is what I need. And when I went in, I was one way, and when I came out, I was another way. But I'm a work in progress till the day I die. I have to do a lot of work on me. I'm kind of obsessed with Mel Robbins right now. She's amazing. So, if you're not working on yourself, then I don't feel you're really here anymore. So we're always a work of progress till the day we die. That's how I look at it.
Well, it's also, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Acceptance, honesty. Like you're being honest about having awful breakup that crushed you. And a lot of people won't do that, right? They'll say, oh, well, it didn't work out, but the truth is it brought you to your knees, right? I've had those too. And they will bring you to your knees, and then somewhere else you really wonder, where does your mind go? It went somewhere else, right? And to be honest with yourself, that's where the work comes in. That's why you love Mel Robbins, because she's the same way, right? When you're honest and you're just raw and you go, I got to get some help, and thank God you did that, and that you found what works for you too, because I want people to know, keep looking. There's something out there for you that will help. Like, don't give up.
There's something for everybody. I've sent about 20 different friends to Hoffman.
You did.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just suggest, but they saw how I speak, how differently I am. And believe me, I'm not always like that. And for about a year, I followed up on the process, and I donate to them to help sponsor other people in the process. Yeah, I mean, everything, it's a small group of people, anything from, I think the smallest group is 20 to 40 people that you're with for a week in a beautiful, wonderful setting. Or now you can even do it online since COVID. But I don't know where I was going. That's so funny. I just had like a moment where
you're talking about the Institute and what it's done for you.
Well, so when people saw me, sorry, forgive me for that. When people saw me, they just were like, how are you this person being raised in what you were raised in? Because it is complicated. People think it's just this great life, right? Oh, you come from money. You didn't have to want for anything. If I really did a deep dive into my story, you'd be feeling sorry for me, but I wouldn't want you to, because I've always worked for one of my dad's companies. This is like the fourth company. I worked for his fragrance company. I worked for his publishing company. Now I work for his restaurant, but I have other things going on. I'm an investor in 3 other restaurants that have nothing to do with him, and an indoor pickleball court. I sit on 4 boards. I've learned all that from him. My brother doesn't really work, but also there's, that's okay. It's what everyone does is what they do on their own. I'm like the worker bee. I don't think that I can stop doing that. Sometimes it may look like I'm escaping things to work so hard, and I'm questioning that right now, but it's what makes me happy. I have been talking to friends that are a funky space right now because of the weight of the world, let's just say. And
it's a lot. It's a lot. Plus, coming out of COVID, it's only been a couple of years, and people are still sort of, wrapping their head around that. And then globally, it's a tough time. It's heavy. And sometimes, look, I'm in the news business. My husband's in the news business. Sometimes I'm like, I don't want to hear it. Yeah. I love creatures. Okay. And I'm like, you know what? Let's go watch something about a sea turtle. I mean, I just need to get my mind off. And you told me off camera, you love, not that this is a plug for them, but I love them too. You love going to pause because it gives you a moment to, right? For people don't know what it is, you want to tell them?
It's a great space. They're all over Southern California. I don't know if they're outside of this area. It's a space that you can go and do cold plunges, infrared sauna, the red light therapy, the flotation therapy, IVs. And I know this isn't relatable in every part of.
I'm thinking, wait a minute, but I promise
there's places everywhere that even if it's going to a yoga class, doing something for yourself, that you just take a pause, PAUSE. I have to tell people because they're like, pause, PAWS. Like, no, you take it. It's such a great name because you're genuinely taking a minute to take care of yourself, however that is, and whatever that looks like for you individually.
Yeah.
This place, I have to go to a place. Like I have to remove myself from my home, from my car, from the everyday jibber jabber. And even if it's 12 minutes in a red light therapy bed, to put on spa music, if that's all you do, if it depends on what the definition of pausing is for everybody.
And it sounds very LA, right?
I know.
For people who don't have a pause in their town, right? You can even get like one of those infrared blankets, and I've seen them even.
I have one. higher dose. I will put a plug in. Don't get anything out of this.
No, me neither. We're plugging all these people. But no, you're right. Like you can find something, or even one that's not higher dose. They have different companies. It is a moment to relax and pause, just for yourself. Like I'm also hearing you need a moment for yourself. I need them too. And you're right. Sometimes you have to get out of where you work and go somewhere else. And in fact, when I first went there, I was sitting in because I've had some injuries, right? So that's why I wanted to go. And I went into the, infrared sauna, and I'm just laying there and I'm going, is this almost over? Because, I'm not used to that, right? I'm thinking, wait, it's only been 7 minutes, Deborah. Give it a minute, a couple more minutes, 10 minutes. Is it? Now I've gotten used to the fact that this is my time, my place, and my space. So, right? Isn't that true? I could see you were nodding. You're like, oh, yeah, right? Did that happen to you?
I take my husband now. And we sat in the infrared sauna together. I'm more like, I can't do an hour. It's pretty intense.
I go right.
No, I go bananas. You can't even have your phone in there, but you can have music. But in the infrared, in the red light therapy, I just turn on spa music, and I do shut down for 12 minutes. And that's my limit. I can do 30 minutes in the infrared sauna. And they say it's really good 20 to 30. You don't have I don't know that I need an hour. We're thinking about putting one here because they're so good for you.
They are.
Anything you do that I think gets you out of your head and a mindset that's not healthy, that I think many of us are getting into based on my conversations with friends, is good.
Yeah. I want to talk just for a few minutes about Dad, growing up with Dad, knowing that, Dad was a legend. Was that something that you were super proud of, or you didn't like to talk about a lot? Like, tell me about that.
So I think back then we didn't have social media. We just had tabloids, and anywhere I went back when I was growing up in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, 90s, my dad was so huge. He was bigger than the Beatles. So it was anywhere I went, Herb Alpert this, Herb Alpert that, blah, blah, blah. So as a young person and growing up in Beverly Hills, he didn't seem abnormal. I grew up with so many children of celebrities.
Oh, yeah.
Shirley Jones and Ryan Cassidy and the Cassidy family. I mean, there are so many, I can't name them. Quincy Jones's daughter, Martina. I didn't know any better. So I didn't really understand famous, not famous.
Yeah.
Everyone was famous. And so I would use it to my benefit when I was younger, like getting out of tickets.
I love that.
But as I got older, I became more like a proud parent. And that sounds strange, but when I watch my dad on stage and he's 90, I'm like, and watching his fan base, and then the fan base of that era and their children that have memories. So they listen to them because their parents did, and now their parents are no longer here. So that memory wake up is there for them. And I'm proud to say he's my dad. I don't do it to, this is my dad. I do it because he's 90 and look at what he's still doing. And he looks like he's 70. And this is my inspiration to keep going. This is why you got to keep going.
No, and he doesn't often perform at Vibrato, right? Because he's performing in front of even bigger audiences, correct?
True. He hasn't performed at Vibrato since 2018. He prefers to do bigger venues, and he also feels uncomfortable for some reason playing at a place with his name on it, which I find interesting because most people would love to play at a place with their name on it and just bring their instrument and come play. But that's just his thing. And he's currently touring, doing a Tijuana brass tour, which he hasn't done in 50 years.
Oh, wow.
He has his own music that he's remade versions of other songs, and he just does covers his way. And now everyone is getting to hear him do this full-blown around the country Tijuana brass tour. I think last night he played in Detroit, and I have a friend in every state, and I'll post about where my dad's playing, which a lot of people follow me on Instagram under Eden Alpert, and I'll post about it. And they can also go to my dad's website and see the menu for the tours. He's playing everywhere for the next year. It's 1 week out of every month. Like the last leg of the tour was, I think, Florida, like that whole area.
Yeah,
So
that is amazing. I mean, if he ever came and even, I don't know if he would do a walk on, but if he ever did perform again, I'm sure he will at Vibrato. I think people would pass out. I know I would to be able
I don't
to.
think he'll be doing vibrato, but all I can tell you is everyone should just keep an eye out on my social media and on herbalpert.com because he will be in California. But that's all I can say.
That's terrific. Very quickly, because we don't have too much time. Tell me about I know that you serve on 4 different boards. They are all very close to your heart. Like I said, we were on the phone when you were driving to one of the meetings. If you want to just touch upon them briefly.
So Vista Del Mar is probably my number one because I wouldn't be here without them. I was adopted through them. Back in the day, they were a Jewish adoption agency. They're the number one child and family services organization in the state of California for over 117 years now. They're an amazing organization that deals not only in foster care, adoption, but also now we have a whole autistic division. So if you go to vistadelmar.org, you can read all about it. I sit on their board. My father had donated the Eden Alpert Therapeutic School of Music there. There is a school on campus. Most of the children are, what's the word I'm looking for? On the spectrum. Mm-hmm. Sorry, sometimes my brain I'm thinking about so many things at once and I can't remember exactly what I'm saying.
Mine too, don't worry about it.
Most of the children that go to school there are on the spectrum. It's a great organization, so they're my number one. I also sit on the board of Concern Foundation, which is cancer research. They've been around for 50, I think this is our 50-year anniversary this year. My cousin Herb Alpert is the president for over 25 years there. And it's all cancer research. They do one of the biggest events of the year at Paramount Studios every year in July with top restaurants from this area, including Vibrato. And it's like a big foodie event and gambling and a lot of fun. I also sit on the board for Omni Peace. And Omni Peace is great. They started in Rwanda, but now we're doing music schools in a box that started in LA. So they're a big box kind of music collab and a whole thing to bring to underprivileged schools in the city of LA, and they'll go around the country. So they get 12 guitars, 12 keyboards, and it's all pretty much a curriculum in a box. And then it comes with, I think if they have a teacher, it comes with a teacher. If they don't have a teacher on campus, there's a teacher provided. And sometimes there's celebrity musicians that come and speak with the children, and we'll do a day of teaching. So I love Omni Peace. And then my mother's foundation. When my mother passed away, she left a very nice foundation for us. And I sit on the board with my nephew and my mom's business manager from the past and another gentleman named Eduardo. So that's an organization, that foundation that we started, that I get to generously give a lot of money away to not one area. We're not very specific. Like my dad's foundation is definitely music and the arts. We're music and the arts. We're health. We're cancer. A little bit of animals. So we don't do much of the environment, but we stay in a very broad direction. And then I'm also very, very close with the Boys and Girls Club and Project Angel Food here in LA. So
you're incredible. You really do so much for the community, for yourself, for your daughter who's getting married. I'm so excited about that. You're managing to find a venue that works. You're in a successful relationship. I mean, all the work you've done, Eden, which is always ongoing, as you said, is paying off, right? In a way that you had probably hoped and wished for, but you put in the work for that. So, I mean, I really applaud you for that. And I'm so grateful that you shared this with my audience. I have one question before I let you go. Is there anyone that's ever been on stage at Vibrato and you said, oh my God, they're here? I can't believe I'm watching this person perform? Or is it many people?
I would have to say it's many.
Yeah, I'll bet.
And you know what, I need to prepare better for this, because then later I'll go, oh my God, I forgot that, we're talking 21 years.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And so I did love, so when John Mayer played, we didn't book him. And when Stevie Wonder got on stage 2 different times, we didn't book him. They got a feeling, they got up, John Mayer got up because he loved seeing Brenna Whitaker. And he was like, I brought my guitar and I'm going to get up there and play with her. Stevie got the same feeling, got up and played. If you ask them to do it, they're not going to want to do it. Tom Jones loves Brenna Whitaker, and so does Gene Simmons. And I had introduced that Brenna to Gene and Shannon, and they like use her for weddings now and everything.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, they love her. So Brenna's been like one of the people that most people want to get up on stage with and perform with her. You should try and come this Friday if you can. But there's not, I'm trying to think if there's one that I said, oh my God. I did say when Stevie got up twice, I wasn't there those nights. I know, and I'm like, gosh darn it, but I've seen him perform. Verdine White gets up on stage, from Earth, Wind and Fire. He's a dear friend, and he'll play the guitar with his wife, Shelley White, who's from, she has her own band, the Honeycombs.
Yes.
So, I'm always in awe of everyone that performs there. So I think the only thing I've always wanted was like John Legend, who lives very close, and Oprah to come in and just hang out. Because until you've seen the room, once you see the room, you're drawn back in. So Seth MacFarlane, who plays monthly, he's great. He's a crooner. A lot of people don't even know that, but the people who are super fans of Seth know that he is a 12 to 18 to 100 piece band crooner. And there once a month. He just played last Saturday, sold out at 10:30 at night.
Of course, it's Seth. I mean, what a beautiful life you have. And I'm more than grateful that you shared this with us. I really, really, really am. Everybody, please look up my interview, which in my opinion wasn't long enough, even though it's been about an hour, with Eden Alpert, right? Didn't it go fast? I felt like you went
really fast. Yeah.
Talking at that New York deli that sadly isn't there anymore on San Vicente, right? I mean, because
I just had lunch there. So when you told me that, I didn't realize that it closed down. I think I had lunch there less than 6 months ago.
I saw you. Were you with like Lisa Stanley, I think, or something?
Yeah.
I saw you. Oh, well, I was like, I got to call her. I got to get her on.
It's closed, but it wasn't busy. So
busy, but I don't know the reasons, but I could just die that it's not there anymore. But I appreciate you being here. I really, really do. And I just think there's a lot that we could all learn from somebody who, goes through a tough time and works so hard and always continues to work hard. I do the same thing to try and grow. Right. So thank you very, very much for inspiring us. And you can find our interview with Eden on YouTube, on Facebook. Then we will, cut little promos and put them all over Instagram, and also as an audio podcast on iHeartRadio and just about anywhere else you get your podcasts. Look up Deborah Kobylt Live and Eden Alpert. Thank you again, particularly to Eden, for joining us, everybody. And we'll see you next time. And maybe we'll see you at Vibrato on Friday. Thank you.
Bye.